I reviewed the 229-page deposition of Hunter Biden that the MAGA Republicans were obsessed with taking. Of course, the MAGA Republicans were too afraid to hold these hearings in public. Hunter Biden said, let's do it in public. MAGA Republicans refused, so it was a closed-door session, and I see why the MAGA Republicans did not want to do it in public, because Hunter absolutely crushed them. He came across as honest and sympathetic. Meanwhile, the MAGA Republicans, whether it was Harriet Hageman or James Comer or whether it was Matt Gaetz or whoever was asking the questions, they were so obsessed with asking questions about Hunter Biden drinking alcohol and taking drugs and his divorce. I mean, I think there were like dozens and dozens of references to that. And remember how James Comer and the MAGA Republicans were like, look, y'all, we need to hold a private deposition because we've got a lot of business records that we want to go through, a lot of complicated financial stuff that we need to go through. Well, that's not what happened here. And instead, they asked Hunter Biden all of these questions where they tried to focus on the lewd and the salacious. And Hunter Biden made clear that at no point in time did President Joe Biden or then Vice President Joe Biden, or even in between when he was not Vice President Joe Biden, never had any involvement ever in Hunter Biden's business dealings, ever, period, full stop. At many points in the deposition, Hunter Biden had to explain to the MAGA Republicans the difference between like meeting somebody and an actual like private meeting. So when you go to a convention and someone who's prolific or important or someone who's well known, someone like a United States president or vice president, or even let's say a CEO or someone gives a speech, you could potentially be in the same room as them and maybe shake somebody's hand. That doesn't mean there is an actual meeting. There's a difference between when Jared Kushner meets with the Saudi Crown Prince, MBS, and takes billions of dollars than when President Biden, or when he was vice president, or in the period between vice presidency and the presidency, would give a speech at, say, the Milken Convention or somewhere like that, and somebody would be in the room. Let's say an oligarch or someone happened to show up in a room with thousands of people. The MAGA Republicans would say, aha, you've got someone in the same room, and Biden was there. Did they shake hands? Oh, they met in private. And Hunter Biden had to say, like, do you realize like how ridiculous that sounds? One of the things early on too, I don't know if it's because MAGA Republicans are just entirely dumb or just live in their right-wing echo chamber or both, but they've tried to like portray that Hunter Biden like doesn't deserve to be on boards and he hasn't had a successful career. Hunter Biden graduated from Yale Law School. He worked at some of the top law firms in the United States of America. He sat on about 17 boards. He was appointed to the Amtrak board and then became vice chairman at the appointment of George W. Bush. He was on the board of the World Food Program and had a major pivotal role there with their massive budgets and important work that they were doing there. And in 2015, when Beau and Hunter Biden's brother passed away quite tragically, Hunter Biden got into a depression and he got into the throes of addiction and his life was turned upside down. It's something that Hunter is not proud about at all, but it is something that the MAGA Republicans want to keep on trying to knock him down for addiction, for his behavior in the past, which he takes accountability for. Meanwhile, you've got MAGA Republicans behaving the way they do. Let's just go through a brief kind of overall summary of what went down in the deposition. Let me share with you some portions of the deposition. I would advise you, if you can, read the deposition for yourself, although I'll give you kind of the high-level summary right here. So it begins with Congressman Eric Swalwell asking for a point of parliamentary inquiry, and Eric Swalwell wants to know specifically if the deposition is going to be produced to the public and when. And then James Comer says, well, we can produce it, in a day. And then Eric Swalwell wanted to confirm that it would be in English and not the MAGA Republicans' preferred language of Russian. I found that to be a funny way that this deposition started. Let me show you some of the questioning by Congress member Eric Swalwell, who asked, any time, Mr. Hunter Biden, that your father was in government prior to the presidency or before, did he ever operate a hotel, Mr. Biden? Hunter Biden's response, no. He never operated a hotel. Swalwell. So he's never operated a hotel where foreign nationals spent millions of dollars at the hotel while he was in office? Hunter. No, he has not. Swalwell. Did your father ever employ in the Oval Office any direct family member to also work for the Oval Office? Hunter. My father has never employed any direct family members to my knowledge. Swalwell. While your father was president, did anyone in the family receive 41 trademarks from China? Hunter, no. Swalwell, as president and leader of the party, has your father ever tried to install as the chairperson of the party a daughter-in-law or anyone else in the family? Hunter, no, and I don't think that anyone in my family would be crazy enough to want to be the chairperson of the DNC. Swalwell, has your father ever in his time as an adult been fined $355 million by any state that he worked in? Hunter, no, he is not, thank God. Swalwell, anyone in your family ever strike a multi-billion-dollar deal with the Saudi government while your father was in office? Hunter, no. That's all I got. Another moment where Harriet Hageman she's the MAGA Republican who replaced Liz Cheney. Here's what Harriet Hageman asked Hunter Biden. Hageman, and tell me, when would that be? Hunter, again, do I have to explain to you? I feel like I have to explain what addiction is. Hageman, you don't have to explain addiction. I'm asking for dates. Hunter, okay. I don't have, because if you understood addiction, you don't have necessarily dates. The one date that you remember is this. You remember the day that you quit, and you remember that day you first started, when you were 11 years old and you had your first drink. You don't remember all the times in between in which you were an addict, in which you got sober, in which you tried to get sober, in which you had long stretches of sobriety during that period of time. And I mean, everybody knows this. Everybody has someone that they love who has gone through this. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what Gaetz and Hunter said, because that's explosive as well. But let me first talk to you about the statement that Hunter made at the beginning of his deposition, because I thought this was very powerful as well. Hunter Biden explained, by the way, Hunter Biden's not taking the Fifth Amendment. He's not invoking his Fifth. He's not running away from this. He sat there. The MAGA Republicans, based on their conduct and what they've done, they're now 2 federal criminal prosecutions against Hunter Biden, one in California, one in Delaware. And even with those criminal cases pending, Hunter Biden's like, I will sit here and answer every one of your questions. I mean, just think about that. And that's what Hunter Biden did. Here's what Hunter said. I'm here today to provide the committee with one uncontestable fact that should end the false premise of this inquiry. I did not involve my father in my business, not while I was a practicing lawyer, not in my investments or transactions, domestic or international, not as a board member, not as an artist, never, period. Pause right there. One thing I forgot to mention, in addition to Hunter working at the top law firms, graduating from the top law school, sitting on top boards throughout his entire career, he was also a professor at Georgetown, had the highest rating class right there. So unlike Donald Trump's dopey little kids who have done nothing but take daddy's money, Hunter actually has a very accomplished career and has worked through his own merit to achieve those positions in various fields. Let's go and keep on reading. Hunter says, you read this fact in my many letters have been sent to you over the last year as part of your so-called impeachment investigation. You heard this fact when I said it weeks ago standing outside of this building. You heard this fact from a parade of other witnesses, from colleagues and business partners of mine, including my uncle who has testified before you in similar proceedings. And now today you hear this fact directly from me. For more than a year, your committees has hunted me in your partisan political pursuit of my dad. You have trafficked innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, all the while ignoring the clear and convincing evidence staring you in the face. You do not have evidence to support the baseless and MAGA-motivated conspiracies about my father because there isn't any. Over the past year, Republicans have taken my communications out of context, relied on documents that have been altered, and cherry-picked snippets of financial or other records to misrepresent what really happened. Examples of this include a few references to my family in emails or texts that I sent when I was in the darkest days of my addiction. If you try to do that today, my answers will reveal your tactics and demonstrate the truth that my father was never involved in any of my business. My testimony today should put an end to this baseless and destructive political charade. You have wasted valuable time and resources attacking me and my family for your own political gain when you should have been fixing the real problem in this country that desperately needs your attention. Thank you, he goes on to say. Today's episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep, the high-tech solution to your age-old sleeping issues. 8 Sleep's pod cover slips right over your mattress, bringing heating and cooling tech that keeps you comfortable and sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. There's nothing worse than tossing, turning, sweating, or shivering in the night because you're not sleeping at the perfect temperature. This is why I love my 8 Sleep, which has greatly improved my quality of sleep and in turn improve my quality of life. Sleep science shows that in order to sleep at our best, our body temperature needs to drop in the early and middle part of sleep and rise in the morning. The pod cover will improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. The cover can be added to any bed like a fitted sheet and allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed as low as 55 degrees and up to 110 degrees. In addition to keeping you at the perfect temperature all night, the pod also tracks your sleep and health metrics. On average, pod users see their sleep quality improve by 32% after just a month on the pod. There's no better way to improve your day-to-day life than better sleep, and the easiest way to do that is with 8 Sleep's Pod 3. So start the new year right and invest in the rest you deserve with 8 Sleep Pod Cover. Go to 8sleep.com/Meidas and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. That's 8sleep.com/Meidas. EIGHTSLEEP.com/MEIDAS and get $200 off. Folks, this was a major game changer for me, and I'm so grateful for my 8 Sleep, and I know you will be as well. Let's pull up another section right here. This is from Democratic Congress Member Jamie Raskin asking questions of Hunter. Raskin: You've been very honest about your struggle with addiction. It's been made public, perhaps more so than any person I can remember in our time, and we've heard from at least 1 or 2 other witnesses that they feel as if some of the political focus on you is an attempt to drive you into relapse. And I want to know how you respond to that, whether you agree with people who are saying that. And I hope this process will be conducted, at least from here on in a way that is respectful and dignified. But in any event, I hope that this is not a process that has driven you outside of your recovery. Hunter's response: I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. It is not. I'm more determined than I've ever been in my life that the number one most important thing I can do, not only for myself, but for my family and for those that love and support me, is to maintain my sobriety. And I don't know. I think one of the things that I have not been able to fully comprehend, I'm speaking to everybody at the table here, is at least the understanding of that. At least the understanding of the fact that I am certain every single person in this room has someone in their life that they love, if not themselves, if not personally themselves, that have not been the victim of the disease of addiction. And I don't consider myself a victim, but I know this. is that it's real and it rips apart families, it rips apart communities. It's something that I know for me. I have a purpose in life now. That purpose in life is to be an example to other people that I know that have it a hell of a lot harder than I do, even in these circumstances. It's one thing to have to come and face all of you, and that's intimidating, and I can tell you it fills me with anxiety on a daily basis, but I know this. There are people out there that don't have families that love and support them. There are people out there that don't, from the outside, look like they have any hope at all. A powerful statement there from Hunter Biden. Now, let me just share with you the portions where Matt Gaetz questioned him as well. So here's what Gaetz had to say. Gaetz says, "Were you on drugs when you were on the Burisma board?" And Hunter Biden goes, "Mr. Gaetz, look me in the eye. You really think that's an appropriate question to ask me?" Gaetz, "Absolutely." Hunter, "Of all the people sitting around at this table, you think that it's appropriate to ask me this question?" Because obviously Gaetz's issues. Gaetz, "Yeah, are you going to answer it?" And that's what Matt Gaetz wanted to spend his time asking. And then Matt Gaetz continues to ask questions about drugs. By the way, a hit dog will holler. And here's what Hunter says. "I don't recall sending this, but I can tell you this, Mr. Gaetz. Number one is this." What you're showing me. "This is me supposed to be to my daughter February 22nd, 2019. And I'm literally on a daily basis trying to kill myself. It had nothing to do with business. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's me complaining in every different way, shouting out the world, and literally in complete and utter agony. And my beautiful daughter is literally trying to save my life and reach out to me. And I go on a tangent and tirade, and I act like a child, and I say things that I would never, ever want to be read because they don't resemble anything resembling the truth about the way that I think about my dad, who literally was also at this time trying to save my life. And so I don't know what you're trying to get at here, Gaetz. I was just asking if you sent the message. It sounds like you remember sending it." So there you have it, folks. I see why MAGA Republicans did not want this in public, but I hope that my brief reenactment of what went down did it a scintilla of justice. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together and have a wonderful day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.